One of the main features in these new developments in the Colorado and the Rocky Mountain West are the use of prairie grasses. And prairie grasses are a lot different than the tall fescues, the perennial ryegrasses, and the Kentucky bluegrasses that people are used to. And they have a different management strategy. So we're coming out here to the Pawnee National Grasslands to show some of the species that are planted in the neighborhood and why they're maintained a little differently than the bluegrass yards that people might be used to. The types of grasses that grow out in these big native, basically desert type environments are the grammas, the blue gramma, side oats gramma. So blue gramma looks a lot like little eyebrows. And then here is a group of crested wheatgrass, very common here, and it's got a very distinct pattern, seed head pattern. And buffalo grass, which is a very low growing grass that again can survive. It's a warm season grass that can survive months and months without any rain at all out on these prairies. But what's important to note is all of the seed heads in these grasses that I've picked, probably 80% of them are still on the stalk. That's very important because if you would come through and mow all of these native grasses in the fall, these seed heads wouldn't be here. And what will happen is these seed heads are going to drop at different times throughout the late winter and the spring. And every time they drop, if there's a thunderstorm that follows, or if they get washed down into the dirt and 2 weeks later there's rain, those seeds will be viable and they'll germinate and they will continue to repopulate. And you can see the area here has almost no weeds at all. But if we came through and mowed this 4 times a year, we would kill off and basically destroy the life cycle of the native plants, and we would fill them with, weedy broadleafs and musk thistle and all of these plants that can't outcompete the native grasses if we leave the native grasses alone. So the management plan for all of these native grasses and native prairie areas, which is much different than a native area where you let shrubs grow up. This is a native grassland. Management plan is to allow as many of these seeds to grow, survive the winter, drop the seeds in the spring, and then repopulate and reseed themselves. And that's a lot different than your yard, which you would, mow every 7 days. So we arrived back at the Metro Districts. We're right between Rain Dance up here and Water Valley down here. And what's interesting is the exact same grasses that were grown out on the Pawnee grasslands are growing here. So again, this is crested wheatgrass. It will grow without absolutely any rain at all. It will outcompete the weeds, as you can see. This is pretty much weed-free here. And then the other management strategy you can see that was in the area right behind me is mowing everything down. So when you mow everything down, you eliminate all of the seeds for next year. You take away all of the habitat for the pollinators. You leave a lot of just little clumpy areas where if we get a big rain, you're real susceptible to erosion. And this is private property over there, that's fine. Private property owners can do whatever they want with their land, but we want to make sure that we're using the land in the Metro Districts in the best way possible. We have a few areas where we're naturalizing, which means letting the native plants grow. Not just the prairie grasses, but all of the native plants. That provides habitat for the pollinators, not just the honeybees, but the insects and moss and everything that feed, also the birds, everything that feed on the seeds that develop in all of these native areas. This is an area along Crossroads that for the last 6 or 7 years has been mowed down. And you can see the results. All of the native grasses have pretty much been killed in this area. And we're starting to get the rabbit brush to move in. And also we're starting to get a good amount of native grasses. By allowing these seeds to fully develop, within a year or two, they will have spread and covered the whole area, stabilized the soil, and then provided habitat for all of the pollinators. What you'll see with properly maintained prairie grasses is not a bunch of stubble. What we really want to see is grass from about the calf up to maybe just below the knee. We want to see lots and lots of seed heads, especially in the fall going into the winter. In the open space in the native areas, you should see a lot of, well, native plants. So if you see a lot of out of place looking plants, those shouldn't be there, and we'll work on that over time. You should also see a lot of pollinators. You should see a lot of bees. You should see a lot of birds eating away at the seeds that are on both the grasses and on the native plants. And if you have any real specific questions on the prairie grasses and the open spaces, go ahead and send us an email. Thank you.